Vuyolwethu Zungula is the president of the African Transformation Movement and joins us now from Mthatha in the Eastern Cape to share his party's perspective on these developments. A very good evening to you, and thank you so much for speaking to us, Mr. Zungula. So please explain this motion or this request that you're calling for. You specifically say you're asking the Speaker to appeal to the President to bring us into his confidence to explain the robbery. Just explain here what exactly you're looking for.
Evening, Sebi. Look, this issue and the allegations by Arthur Fraser, they're very, very serious allegations. You know, when you have a head of state being accused or having such allegations, it is something we should not take lightly. Now, we've got a parliament which is a representative of the people. Now, what we're expecting from the Speaker, it is to summon the President, that the President come speak to Parliament, take the nation into its confidence that these allegations, they're actually, they do not have any substance, and we're expecting the Speaker to appeal to the conscience of the President that the President, when there was COVID, the President addressed the nation. When there was the flooding, any issue that is of national importance, he always goes to Parliament and address the people. Why is it that when there are such allegations, he does not want to speak under oath and come and account to the people that he's done nothing wrong?
Now,
and
whatever that has happened,
it was...
Allow me to jump in and say this. You make two competing statements. You're saying you would like the Speaker to summon the President, but you also say you are asking the Speaker to appeal to the President's conscience. So there's compelling and appealing in the same vein, but obviously those would have very different effects. Are there any legal, criminal grounds, or even using the parliamentary code to do any of this? In accordance to the rules of Parliament, the President is supposed to come for a question and answer session in Parliament once a quarter. For this particular quarter, the President has not done so. So for that, it gives us a leeway for the Speaker to say, in line with this particular rule of Parliament, you can come and account. However, because this is something, these allegations are very serious, it is something whereby the Speaker should actually ask the President to say, come address the nation, take the nation into its confidence, and just dispel whatever notions that are there. So that is what we're actually asking for, that in accordance to the rules, and if that fails, when it comes to the Speaker not being able to apply the rules, then appeal to the conscience of the President, that he must come take the nation into its confidence, because it is very critical that we are as a country, we have a President that is seen to take the nation into its confidence whenever there are such allegations, because when a sitting head of state is accused of money laundering, corruption, etc., it is not proper for the President to just mize the nation and pretend that there is no crisis. He must go account in Parliament. Okay, so we'll get to the reported or alleged sequence of events in just a moment, but you as the ATM say that you acknowledge the fact that the matter is still under investigation, which is something which the President has appealed for in terms of time to allow for investigations. But you have said because this is not a matter that is before the courts, it's therefore not sub judice, and it would not be against Rule 89 of the National Assembly. I mention this because I want to understand that should the President say, allow the various authorities who are investigating this matter to complete their work before I speak to you in Parliament, what would you use to then appeal to him to say, beyond this Rule 89, to say, well, as your role as head of state, who should be pretty much be exemplary in terms of ethics, this is why you are obliged to come and appear before us? he said he's a man of integrity, he's a man of transparency, he's a man of accountability. Those three virtues on their own should have led him to actually, him take the initiative and write to the speaker and say, Speaker, here's some serious allegations. Please afford me time and space to clear the air so that regardless of the continuing investigations, because there's nothing that prohibits Parliament, from hearing the president account on an existing investigation. We know with the Nkandla issue, relevant law enforcement agencies were doing whatever investigations that they were doing, but the Parliament on its own had to do its work in terms of holding the executive accountable. So it can't be now that the president will say the investigations must be allowed to continue, whereas in 2020, when this transpired, he did not have any confidence in the police. That is why he did not report it. So he can't run, he can't hide behind the investigations now. He should be a man of a man whereby he leads by example. He shows that he takes South Africans seriously and he understands the gravity of the allegations and what it does in terms of the psyche of South Africans, as well as the confidence of South Africans when it comes to upholding the law. Because we can't have a president that is seen to, bypass the law and does not abide by the law. We've got a country whereby, it is slowly becoming a banana republic, whereby people, they choose whether to abide by the laws and whatnot. So the president would actually give confidence to the people by going to Parliament, so that the people understand that we need to be a law-abiding country.
Let's look at some of the laws that he's accused of abiding by. One of those is failure to report a crime, which is said to be in contravention of the Prevention of Organised Crime Act. But you yourself also say it is very concerning that he did not go to a specialized or specified office of the Directorate of the Priority Crime Investigation as required by the Prevention and Combating of Corrupt Activities Act. Are there any other laws that you foresee him have broken? Well, we understand that these are allegations, that it's still at the stage of claims being made against the president. But, using these again to appeal to the president to say, because of these crimes that you have seemingly, these acts or laws that you have seemingly, broken, this is why. Beyond the ones that I've read, are there any others that you foresee that he could have broken?
It is the Executive Members Ethics Act. That is why we wrote to the Public Protector. That is one of them. There are acts relating to how much a person can keep cash in their private property, without having deposited to a bank. There are laws regulating how foreign currency can, be received. So there's a myriad of laws. That is why we want the president to come, account, so that, he gives confidence that even though the SARS, SAPS, Reserve Bank, the Public Protector, or any other institution is doing investigation, but he's willing to come clean and take the nation into its confidence about whatever that could have transpired. So that is what we are asking for as the ATM, that let the president account.
According to the Members of Parliament's code, particularly to do with the executive, the head of state specifically, and we speak about declaring of interests here. Is there, according to what you know of the record, that the president had declared that is now seeming to not have been in that original declaration of interests and assets? As in, was there information that is missing? Did he appear to lie or mislead Parliament? With all of that which is coming out now, the sale of game on his farm, the amount of money that is alleged to have been stolen, speak to us about what appears to be discrepancies and just outright omissions, according to the allegations.
Even before we go to the specifics, if we can just talk about the principle. In 2014, when he joined government, one of the first things that he said that he's going to leave the business interest, and his entire business interest will be run by a blind trust, will not be involved in the day-to-day activities of running those businesses. Now, that is what he said in 2014. Now, he can't in 2022 appear to be somewhat actively involved in the running of those companies or businesses, because he's saying, I'm a farmer, I sell, and this is the money. It is through these various transactions, these business activities that I'm part of. Whereas in 2014, he said he's no longer actively involved in any business. So for us, that was the first thing that we picked up, that no, there's something that is inconsistent here. Therefore, has he misled Parliament when he said that in 2014 versus now? Has he declared that he's now actively involved in running businesses? Because he seems to have proper information as to how much was there, from what type of businesses. Therefore, it only means he's actively involved.
Okay.
And that contradicts what he said in 2014.
Before we run out of time, I must ask you this. The EFF is of the opinion that the president needs to step aside in order to allow the SAPS time to investigate this matter. I want to understand if you share that view, but more importantly, can the president be the head of a state and an ordinary businessman at the same time, or does he enjoy undue favor by being in business while being head of the state? As in, does it carry with it the inferment of undue influence on either side of a transaction?
Firstly, Ramaphosa must resign. He must step down and go focus on his businesses, because clearly he makes so much money in those businesses and is clearly failing to run the country. That is why we're seeing an increase in the cost of living, unemployment, crime, etc. So he must just vacate office and focus on his businesses that he dearly loves. Secondly, it is known that you can't be a head of state at the same time be an active businessman. You are going to have undue influence and you run a risk of being corrupted. That is why members of parliament themselves, members of the executive, they need to disclose any interest. And the constitution says a member of the executive cannot partake in another activity that will lead to economic benefit, meaning they cannot do other work that will derive economic benefit for them. And here in this particular instance, he's clearly violated the constitution.
Vuyolwethu Zungula, thank you so much for speaking to us, African Transformation Movement President.